With that, I will go ahead and pray, and we'll get started. You guys can feel free to grab a cookie or a drink at any time you want to. With that, let's start tonight. Dear Lord, we love you, and we thank you so much for letting us be here tonight. And we thank you for the opportunity it is to serve your church and to have an opportunity tonight to talk together about how we can best do that. And we pray you help us to honor you, and it's in your Son's name we pray. Amen. So good to see everybody. I'm excited to be back in action. The summer was fun, but I got really bored sitting in my office. Not bored. I was doing work, I promise. Don't tell Aaron I said that. But I got lonely, and so it's awesome to see everybody's faces and to start seeing everybody back from vacation and that kind of thing. I'm pumped for Bible Life, and I wanted to get started again. I've got to spend the summer thinking about great ideas, so I anticipate a ton of fun. I'm excited that y'all have decided to join that journey with me. One thing that happened over the summer that some of you may know about and some of you may not, but you'll, I'm sure, find out sooner than later, is that Christy, who has been the administrative assistant for Greg and I, has taken the financial secretary position. And with that switch, Greg and I have taken all of the administrative responsibilities that she was doing for us on ourselves. And so with that, there are some things that Greg and I are talking about streamlining for ourselves, and one of those things is going to be how we check in at Awana. I'll talk about that in a little bit, but just as things come up over the next couple weeks, Christy gave me a nice big list of everything that she's done, so I'm 99.9% sure that I know everything she's doing, but if I miss something that she does and it affects you, just holler at me, and I will definitely make sure to jump on that for you. The biggest thing that I did this summer and this spring was create this guy's child protection policy. So I read lots of books and lots of articles, and that'll be the first thing that we talk about tonight. And we'll take a break, and if you're just doing Bible Life and not doing Awana, you're free to leave after that, and then everybody who's doing Awana, we can come back in here, and we'll go over some Awana specific things. I got an emailed copy to you earlier, and so I won't read through everything. It's 15 pages, and you don't want to be here all night, and I would put you to sleep if I read all 15 pages. But it is going to be important for y'all to read the whole thing, and the very last page is just a statement that says you did read it and that you'll comply with it, and I need either a physical copy or a digital copy signed and gotten back to me. That way we're all on the same page about going through everything. Most of the policy is things that we're already doing and thinking through, just keeping kids safe, but having it written down, that way we all know what standard is just really going to be important for us. The biggest thing that affects us, there are a couple big things that affect us. We are going to start, we're already background checking all of our leaders. We're going to do that continually every 2 years. Also, starting now every 2 years, you guys will get a link in your email in the next couple weeks, and we're going to have everybody go through a child abuse awareness training. So it's just an hour's worth of like 5-minute videos that you watch, and then at the end you take a quick quiz. And once you pass the quiz, it sends me a certificate that says you passed it. Those videos are just to help us think through different aspects of child safety. I learned a lot when I was going through and getting my own certificate, just about things you don't necessarily think about in terms of what it looks like to keep children safe, signs of a child possibly being abused, and that kind of a thing. Here in Texas, we are all mandated reporters, and so if we see abuse or suspect abuse, it's a violation of the law to not report it, and we can go to prison and get a heavy fine if we don't. I just got married. I don't want to be in prison, so I'm going to report stuff. You definitely need to be reporting it too if you see anything. And there's some information in the back of the policy that talks about that. Hopefully that won't be a thing that comes up. Unfortunately, the world we live in is a place where sometimes that kind of thing happens. So that is going to be the biggest thing for you. You'll get that link, watch the videos, and be background checked. And that'll happen every 2 years. So, I understand that serving comes in seasons, and not everybody will stay with us for a super long period of time. But if you are with us over the course of a number of years, every 2 years, you'll rewatch those videos, re-background check, just to stay fresh, make sure everybody's safe and good to go. Just kind of standard policy. I talked to bunches of different churches, and that's how everyone is doing it across the board. So that'll be really important, and we'll do that for you. One of the forms that you can see there is a transportation form. So we went through a lot of just kind of what does it look like to keep kids safe. And one of the things is that we need to have parents' permission to transport their children. So the activity participation agreement is the form that is the transport form. And this is something that we will give out to every child who rides one of the church vans. And before they are allowed to come to church on Wednesday night or Sunday morning in the church van, their parent has to have signed this form, filled it out, and given it back to us. This lets us know, their parents know where they are, and it gives us backing in terms of insurance. If something were to happen, a wreck or something like that in the van, and parents can't hold us liable as a church for anything that happens. And so that just is nice coverage for the children and for us. And really the heart of the whole policy, everything that you'll read, is to keep kids safe and to make sure that they're in the most safe environment. And it's also for our sakes. Y'all are awesome people, and I trust each one of you. But unfortunately, we live in a world where sometimes people get cranky and get very accusation happy. And if we have just a very standard policy for everything that we do, if someone were to try to accuse us of something, they can't, and that wouldn't stand up legally. I have a friend I went to college with who actually served at a church who thankfully had a policy like this and was accused of doing some inappropriate things, but because he had followed the policy, didn't go to prison, didn't get a fine, and it was because of the policy being in place. The judge was like, no, he did everything right, and you're just angry. And so it's those kinds of things we just really want to make sure that y'all are good to go. So this transport form, that's what that is, and anytime we do an activity, so something like missions camp that we just came back from this summer, this will be a part of the registration for that as well. It just gives parents the sign off. And we're already doing it, but just so you're aware, we also have parents sign off medically so that if a kid's running around in here on the floor and scrapes their arm or cracks their tooth or something, then we're covered on that end. And the other form that you'll notice is a notice of injury form. So speaking of injury, I have these in my office here in Building A, and they are spread throughout the rest of the church. If any child gets injured while they are here, so this doesn't really apply if a kid falls and just like a minor scrape on their arm, but if there's anything serious that would require a stitch, or they bust their lip open, they crack their tooth, they bump their head and get a concussion, anything that's of a more serious nature, we have this accident report form. We just fill this out real quick, and that way everybody knows what happened, who is the volunteer that cared for them, what happened, and then if their parent or a doctor or someone wants to see that, they can look at it. And our kids do have their parents sign a medical release form for everything that we do as well. But we're just going to fill this out that way we all know exactly what's going on and what's happened. And outside of each room, so for the Bible Life teachers in that outbox that's outside of your room, in Building C and in Building D, there are 3-inch 3-ring binders. And in each one of those binders, there's a physical copy of the child protection policy and about 8 or 9 different summary forms. So a quick summary, basically it's just pages of the child protection document. So a summary of the well child policy, a summary of these accident report forms, just a summary of what the policy does in general, how we check kids in and out, things like that. And if at any time you need an extra copy of a form for yourself or to give to a parent, you can do that. I have copies in my office if we're doing anything here in Building A or in Building B. We can just grab those from my office real quick. And we can hand those out to parents, and that'll just be a real helpful way that parents can have their questions answered. Obviously, they can come to me with anything, but if they read the paper, they should feel pretty good to go about questions that they have. So those binders are spaced everywhere, extra forms, as well as if you have anything that you need to grab for them, they're there. 3 of the biggest things that we have going for us that are not necessarily new, but just updated, and they're going to happen everywhere we go. So our check-in and check-out is something that we've beefed up a lot. So in the past, kids have been allowed to come to Awana and run around campus. If their parents are in youth group, they can just kind of go find their mom and dad or whatever. We're doing away with that. And for the next 6 weeks, starting this week all the way through September, we're doing a soft launch of our check-in. So I have information that Bible Life leaders, hopefully I'll hand it out at the end of this last week, and we'll hand out every week on Sunday mornings. It's just a quick summary of the child protection policy. They're in your rooms next to the binders. And we'll hand those out to parents. That way they know everything that's happening. But kids have to be checked in. So we're going to have a check-in computer, and I'll go over that for Awana in terms of what the flow will look like. We're going to have a check-in computer for Awana, and we're going to have check-in computers for Bible Life and Children's Worship as well. So every kid gets a security tag. For the next 6 weeks, we're going to show grace as everyone's getting used to the process. But starting the first Sunday and first Wednesday of October, if a child does not have a security tag, they cannot come into your classroom for Bible Life. They can't come in here for Children's Worship, and they can't come to Awana until their parent has registered them and gotten them a security tag. This allows us to know exactly where children are, where they're supposed to be, and it also allows us to know who is allowed to pick the children up. We want to make sure that children are going with the correct parents. In addition, in the past, we've let kids run out, so if their parents are serving somewhere else, they can just go to them, that their parents have to come and pick them up. They can't just run out. And you have to be an adult, so you have to be 18 years or older to pick a child up from children's ministry. So older siblings in youth group can't come and pick kids up. It has to be an adult. An approved adult has the security tag. If an adult comes without the security tag to pick the child up, we have to do a driver's license check to make sure that they are who they say they are. And the child has to identify that person as their ride in a way that's not under duress. So you can just tell, oh yeah, that's my mom, or it's my dad. We've had a couple issues actually even here over the summer where parents who aren't supposed to have custody of their children have come and tried to get their children checked out. And so these security tags are going to be really helpful to make sure that the right child goes with the right parent. Obviously, if a kid knows who his dad is, that's fine and good, but if dad's not supposed to have custody or mom's not supposed to have custody, we don't want that child to go with someone they're not supposed to. So that check-in and check-out is going to be everywhere across the board, and we're going to have that 6 weeks to make sure everyone gets used to it. But on Sunday mornings and Wednesday nights, just be encouraging your parents to check their kids in. And it's going to be a couple weeks of getting everybody in the system. So I created groups today and inputted everyone into the computers. So when you go to the check-in, you type in the last 4 digits of your phone number. If you have kids in pre-K, you've already done this, and it's the same thing. And you tap the events that they're going to go to. So you check them into Bible Life and Children's Worship at the same time. And the tag will print, stick one on their back, you keep one. And as simple as that, and then go to class. But we're going to do that, and the full policy of just all the details on that is on page 10 of the packet. So I won't read all of that for you, but it's there, and you can check that out. But that's going to be the big deal, 6 weeks there. The next thing that kind of goes along with the accident report form is our well child policy. So if you would, turn to page 9 in the packet with me. So we are going to just establish a well child policy. So what this looks like is that in order to keep everybody healthy, if a child or you as an adult worker are sick, you can't come to class. The child can't come to class. And so on page 9, you see there a list, and I've got these posted in every room in those binders. So if a parent tries to argue with you about their kid coming to class, you can just pull out the list. So things like a fever over 99.6, you have it currently or have had it within the last 24 hours, vomiting, diarrhea, color discharge from the nose, a productive or wet cough, a sore throat, rashes, skin infections, things like pink eye. Those are all things we're looking for. We want to make sure that kids can't come to class. That's just to make sure that none of the other kids in the class get sick. That child obviously is going to need some time to heal, and they are going to heal better at home instead of being around lots of other kids running around on the playground in the nice Texas heat. And it also keeps us healthy, and it just keeps us from spreading germs all over the church. And so any child who has one of those symptoms just can't come to class, and hey, I'm sorry, you're sick, you're going to have to come back next week. And if a child is fine when they get checked in, but in the middle of class, they, specifically on the vomiting or diarrhea, have something happen, we're going to call a parent. Every parent's cell phone number is going to be on their tag, so it's going to be very easy to contact parents and just say, hey, Johnny got sick in the middle of class, you need to come pick him up and take him home. And per legal and insurance ramifications, we can only take care of a medical issue as far as a Band-Aid or an ice pack will fix a problem. So if a Band-Aid or an ice pack won't fix the problem, we can't take care of it. And so what that's going to look like is anything else. So we're going to have parents, and it's all part of the information that I'm just blasting: emails, Facebook, paper copies. I'm just throwing it every direction possible so parents know. But if their child has an allergy, peanut allergy is pretty common, something like that, parents just need to let us know ahead of time. And if their child has a reaction, they have to come and administer the EpiPen or other kind of medicine. If we administer it wrong, we can be held legally responsible for any injury that happens to their child. And at that point, they can sue us or the church. And we don't want to be the church that causes kids to have problems. And so to avoid those legal and insurance ramifications, parents or a trained medical professional have to be the one who administer that. And so we're just going to let parents know that ahead of time. And in severe cases of a particularly severe allergy or something crazy, we can have individual conversations with parents. But as the general policy, if a Band-Aid or an ice pack doesn't fix it, then we aren't going to be able to deal with that. If something like very serious happens, obviously the first thing you're going to want to do is call 911 and then call the parent. So there's that on the well child policy. And then we've got our discipline policy as well. So check-in, well child, and discipline. Those are the three things that are the biggest ones to highlight. Everything else is pretty familiar to you already. But on page 6, you can see the discipline policy. And if you'd flip there with me. We've had different ways of doing discipline in the past, but just to keep everything standard, it actually starts on page 7, really. The word discipline's on page 6, but the policy's on page 7. In order to keep everyone just kind of what discipline looks like across the board, in every children's ministry event, Awana, Bible Life, Children's Worship, anytime we go to something like missions camp, our discipline policy is a 3-strike system. So what that means is if a child is doing something inappropriate behaviorally, and I have it listed out in that policy, but you're looking at saying inappropriate words, inappropriate physical touch, threats, violence, anything like that, even talking in class when they're not supposed to, anything that's disruptive to the flow of what we're doing, the child gets a 1. So if Johnny is talking and he shouldn't be, hey Johnny, you're talking in class, it's handbook time, you're not supposed to talk right now, so that's a number 1. And if Johnny does his work, hopefully that's great. If Johnny keeps talking, keeps being distracted with, hey Johnny, you're talking again, you're not allowed to talk, that's a number 2. If I have to give you number 3, your mom is going to have to come pick you up, so you need to know that's not okay. Then if he does it again, Johnny gets a 3. And, all right, hey Johnny, you kept talking, you didn't listen, you've got a 3. Now, what'll happen when you get a 3 is you need to call their parent, and their parent has to come and pick them up from class. So even if it's in the middle of Bible Life, in the middle of Children's Worship, in the middle of Awana, they need to call. And if their parent, like Awana, has dropped them off and they're off campus, the child will stay with me until their parent can come. But we have, their parent comes and picks them up. And so for the rest of that, the time of that event, so the rest of that Wednesday night or the rest of that Sunday morning, they're not allowed in the classroom. And then the following week, they have to take 1 week off. So we're not kicking them out of the class for forever. But if a child gets to a 3, they can't come back to Bible Life the next week. They have to take a 1 week break, or they have to take a 1 week break from Awana. And we obviously want children to come, and so nothing that we're doing is designed to push children away. But we do want to have an atmosphere that is biblical and safe and fun for everyone. And in order to do that, we have to have some order. And so the general idea is, if your teacher would expect you to act like this in school, we expect you to act like this here at church. And so not talking when the teacher is talking, listening, not being violent or threatening, and that kind of a thing. There are a couple of things that we won't tolerate and that immediately get you put to a 3. So it's the second to last bullet point on there. But we have a 0 tolerance policy for any kind of physical violence or emotional violence. So if you're just being very verbally threatening, any kind of bullying, threats, any kind of menacing behavior that puts others in danger is an immediate 3. So just no tolerance for that whatsoever. We want to make sure that everything is safe. for the kids. And not that any of y'all would do this, but just so you know, the last bullet point there, that caregivers are prohibited from yelling at, spanking, or hitting a child. So you only may discipline through the 3-count system. If the child's being particularly disruptive and it's hard to control, you can call me and their parent, and we'll get that handled. But we only want to have the 3-count system. That way everything is above board. No one can say that we've done anything to the child that's harmful, and the other children are good to go and don't see us lose our temper or anything like that. And then just below that, this kind of comes into discipline and how we handle both medical care and the physical touch aspect of things. Just below, we have an appropriate and inappropriate physical touch going on. And so a side hug, a pat on the upper back, a high five, a fist bump, those are considered appropriate forms of physical touch. So kids, especially younger ones, love a good high five, love a good side hug. We want to encourage a warm and family atmosphere. So those things are not only good to go, but encouraged for you to do when you see your kids in the hallway. Hey, Mr. Norman, high five kind of thing. And inappropriate physical touch, though, is anything other than what I listed above. So a full-on front hug, any kind of pat on the lower back or any other body part, any other area of the body, those are all not okay. Those are inappropriate forms of physical touch, and you will be suspended from serving for a while if you are caught doing those things in terms of inappropriate physical touch. We're not going to tolerate that, just so that everyone is good to go. And obviously accidents happen. If you're catching something and your hand touches a kid's knee or whatever, that's fine. But if you're anyone who is actively seeking to touch a child in an inappropriate way is removed from service immediately, just to keep the children and everyone else safe and good to go. And then you can read through the rest of the physical touch policy. Most of it with the kids, what we're thinking about is maximum visibility and maximum accountability. And so it was really eye-opening and sobering to read lots of the child safety manuals and policies from other churches, lots of the statistics on how child predators act and think. Churches are the #1 target for child predators in America because churches are places that are full of grace and love and second chances. And child predators take advantage of that and try to prey on those things, which was really sobering because grace, mercy, second chances, those are all terms of the gospel, terms that we think of and offering the forgiveness of Christ. And we want to be a place that's warm and welcoming to people, obviously, but we also want to be a place that protects our children. And Jesus would be just as upset at letting us hurt a child as he would saying that someone needs to take a break from being with children. And so it was really sobering to read that predators come and they try to be buddy-buddy with you and make you think that everything is okay, get the trust. They first get the trust of parents and other workers. Oh, hey, I'll take the kid over to building D, no problem. And, oh, of course you will, I trust you. And then they begin to do things, and it's called a grooming process. So child predators don't just immediately go all over a child to do crazy, inappropriate things. They begin with a pat on the lower back instead of on the upper back. And they do that a few times, and if they can get away with it, then they do a pat on the inner thigh. And if they can get away with that, then it's a full-on hug. And if they can get away with that, then they unbutton the top of their shirt and let some of their chest be exposed. And they slowly go through a process of getting a child to trust them and slowly go on, and then guilt and shame the child into thinking that if you tell an adult, no one's going to believe you. And the scary thing is that oftentimes the child predator has earned the trust of everyone else in the church, such that, oh my goodness, I'm so shocked that it's Susan who is the one who did that. No way. Or it was Jim. There's no way. Just name came into my head. I wasn't looking at you, but I promise. But, it's the idea of that happens. And so all of these policies, as I was reading through, typing this up, I was thinking, Ethan, some of these things seem pretty strict and kind of seem pretty intense. But as I was reading how predators act and the statistics on the fact that churches are the #1 place for predating to happen, it just was like, okay, Jesus has entrusted the children of Hayes Hills Baptist Church to my care, and so caring for them is going to be our top priority. And it was interesting, a lot of churches don't have policies. So a lot of children's ministries are so desperate for help that anyone who has a pulse and will say yes is allowed to come in. And by having a policy in place, we have really seen an elimination. You see statistically an elimination of child predators coming into the church. Because if they see that they have to go through a ton of hoops to become a member, there's a strict standard, they're going to get caught, they'll go to one of the other 50 churches in the area that doesn't have one of these policies in place, so that they can get away with things a lot easier. And all of y'all are already serving us, so I didn't mention it, but just so you know, the process from now on, anyone who's interested in serving will fill out an application to serve, and then we'll have a meeting with me. We'll figure out where they want to serve, and they have to have been a member of Hayes Hills for 6 months before they can begin to serve. So I don't know where everybody is. If any of y'all haven't been here for 6 months, you're good to go. But in terms of new people coming in, we're going to wait until 6 months are up. Obviously, there's always a need for people serving in children's ministry, but waiting 6 months allows us to see people, allows us to get to know people, and statistically, having a waiting period was something that pushed child predators away from churches. They want immediate access to children. They're not interested in waiting 6 months. And so all of these things are just really there to keep children safe, to keep us safe. And that's what's going on. So threw a lot of information at you. There's a lot of other details in the packet. I'll let you read through the rest of it as you have time. And if you could, within the next couple of weeks, sign the back for me and get that back to me, either a physical copy that you can drop off in my mailbox outside my office, or you can just email me a digital copy. Whatever works for you works for me. But with that, are there any questions that anybody has before we take a short break? Yes, ma'am.
The medical, you mentioned calling the parents. Is the phone number somewhere readily available?
Yes, ma'am. The phone number is going to be on the tag. So the security sticker that every child has coming in will include the parent's cell phone number. You can't register. I've set the system up so that you can't register your child without giving us your cell phone number. And so you can call the parent immediately if something like that happens. Yes, ma'am.
Kids are not always the best, especially like kindergartners at side hugs. So if they give you a full hug, do you just like sort of scoot them to the side?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. That's a really good question, and things like that happen. So tons of grace for that for all of us. So I'm not going to come around like a strict principal and like trying to bust you. I get sometimes like 3 or 4 kids who come up and all want to say hey at once, and it's like, you're all over me. How'd this happen? But yeah, just kind of sliding your body weight to the side so that they're side is the right way to go. And really just having that there is, like, back child. Yeah, but do whatever works. But just kind of shifting them to the side. That there is just to help us think through when we approach children, how are we doing it? If we get mobbed, so goes life sometimes. But that's a good question. Oh, yes, ma'am, yeah.
Okay. What do we do with the tag once they give it to us? I know the nursery has a sheet that they stick that on. Are we going to have those in our folders?
We don't need to keep those. Sandra, that has those because that's how Sandra knows to go and enter new people into the system. Okay. I'm going to do it paperless just because I don't trust myself to keep track of paper. I'm a little too ADD. Sandra's more organized than I am, I think. So once they give them to you and you're leaving your room, you can just drop all the security tags in the garbage can. We reprint new tags every week. That way no one can bring in an old tag from the date. Jamie, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, by the 3rd or 4th week, the older kids will sometimes come in. This is so-and-so, she's my friend down the street. Mm-hmm. And you have no information other than she's the friend of this.
Yeah, that's great. So what we'll do in that case is if someone brings a friend, which obviously Awana especially, but any kind of church, we want kids to bring their friends. So for instance, if Brian and Joy, if Bobby invites one of his friends, until that person's parent comes to church, we will put that child in the system as Brian and Joy, as their child, or whoever they came with, we'll put them in the system under them. That way when they come in, or whatever family comes in and they type their number in, that child's security tag will come up with their children's tags, and they're all printed out, and then whatever adult brings the child to church, that is the adult that will have them under, and then hopefully their parents will come to church, and if they do, then we'll shift the child over to their parent, but whatever adult is bringing the child to church is the one that they'll register to.
Can I claim a tax deduction on that child?
Hey, I mean, if you need the IRS to do that, yes, and let me know how that works. That'd be great. Yes, Sethy.
I don't know if it's silly or not, but if they were just coming for one time, they're just like visiting, and they wouldn't have any documentation, would we just write their name and their name down? and move on?
We have paper tags that we're going to use for people who it's their first time. And yeah, because sometimes people come for Awana, it's like bring your friend out, but they don't come back. So I'm going to have paper tags in the rooms. For Bible Life, I'll have them in the Bible Life rooms. And then for Awana, I'm going to be the one by the computer, at least for the little bit while I'm figuring out a smooth system. And we'll have paper tags. So if it's a child's first time, we'll give them a paper tag. That'll be easier because it's going to take me a little bit of time to go back and add them into the system anyway. For Sunday mornings, it's a hassle trying to get everyone in there. So I'll go back in on Mondays and add new visitors into the system. And on their tags, we'll mark down whichever adult brought them. And if they come back after 3 times, then we'll get them into the system. So we'll give them a tag 3 times, it's paper, and then we'll add them in the 4th time. Yes, Chris?
It says two caregivers in the classroom.
Mhm.
And when the child has to go to the bathroom, one of the caregivers is supposed to be standing outside the bathroom. Is there a floater that's going to be in the hallway to make?
Yes. So on Sunday mornings are going to be the more tricky time in that on Wednesday nights there's so many of us that at any points along the way we can come. But on Sunday mornings, if a child needs to go, and the caregivers only have to stand outside of the door if the child going to the restroom needs assistance. So if the child's able to go to the restroom on their own, they're free to do that. But if the child needs assistance, that's when that comes in, and we'll have either a member of the security team. I'm going to be floating around during Bible Life, and I'm working on recruiting, but I want to make sure the system's smooth first. Some people who will just be floaters for me on Sunday mornings for that very purpose of coming in, stepping into the classroom for a few minutes.
And then I would have to work on weekends sometimes, and it happens to be on the weekends that we're supposed to be teaching, so I get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But does that mean that Angela has to find a sub for me to maintain 2 adults in the classroom?
Yeah, so what we'll do on that with the Bible Life teachers, for the classrooms that are the A and B week, the first step would just be, can we switch weeks? And then if for some reason that's not going to work out, we will get a sub. I've had a couple people reach out to me and say that they're interested in serving and maybe don't want to teach all the time, but would be willing to step in on a Sunday morning if need be. And so we'll have a sub come in at that time to keep the ratio where it needs to be. So, yeah. Yes, ma'am, Lindsay.
Regarding the bathroom policy, are we supposed to send everybody to the bathroom with a buddy, or if they're old enough?
If they're old enough, so that goes back to the whether or not they need help, and the buddy is really more so for if an adult is going to be present. So if an adult's going to be present, then sending 2 children to the bathroom is another layer of accountability. Just everything is designed to reduce alone time where there's 1 adult and 1 child. That's like the absolute unforgivable sin of child protection. And so the buddy system there is the child might not even have to go to the bathroom, the second one, but having another child there is just one more layer of accountability to make sure that everyone is staying above board on that. Jacqueline?
So going back to the discipline policy about the 1, 2, and 3, is that going to be explained to our kids from you? Or are we supposed to expect all these parents to explain it to our kids? Because let's be honest, that might not happen.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm going to explain it. So I'm going to explain it on Sunday morning during children's worship. And that'll cover everybody, just looking at attendance and everything. All the kids that go to Bible Life come to children's worship. The part where you might not have overlap is there are some kids who come for the second service but not the Bible Life. So I'm going to explain that during children's worship. And I'm going to explain it a bunch. So not just one time, but like lots of times. And I'm also going to explain it on Wednesday night during Awana. The first week of Awana, I'm just going to go through like what are points and what is your handbook, and we'll talk about that discipline policy as well. So it's something y'all can remind your kiddos of, but I'll make sure to explain that from the front. So someone show up, Sherelle.
Yeah, about the pickup with the license thing, I just wanted to, I had read on here, in addition to what you said, it says if someone doesn't have their tag and they do just have a license, that it does need to be the children's minister, the director of preschool, lead pastor, or an elder only that can release the child.
Oh, yes, I'm glad you saw that. Yes, ma'am. So that is just there to make sure that everyone is good to go. So during Bible Life, I'll be floating around the hallway. And then during children's worship, I'm in here. And so we'll be squared away. If I'm on vacation, I'm going to make sure that we have someone on that list, another elder or something, here to just be present during that checkout time to make sure everything's good to go. And same for Wednesday nights where I'll be here for Awana. Awana. So 9 times out of 10, I'll hit that and we won't have to worry about it. But just getting someone else to come in serves a twofold purpose of, one, reminding parents, don't forget your security tag. It's that important. And two, if anyone tries to be shady, it just sets the standard that, oh my goodness, this church really takes it seriously. I'm going to go tell all my shady friends to go somewhere else, take their criminal activity elsewhere. So, yes, ma'am.
So like what she said, a lot of times we have other parents that come get kids, like if Effie were to pick up Michael, his mom dropped him off, so she's got his tag. Does she just need to give it to her? Can she show the tag? That, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so she can have the security tag. And as long as the adult has the security tag, we're good to go. We're just going to want to look out. And so one thing that I'm going to have parents do for me, especially thinking of the custody dispute, if like a dad, per se, or a mom, of one parent who's not supposed to have custody. This has been when I've read through everything, the situation's come up the most in terms of wrong person picking up the child. Obviously, a child sees one of their parents, and most of the time, they're not going to freak out. I mean, if the parent was abusive or something, they might not want to go. But most of the time, they're going to say, "Oh, mom. Oh, dad. Okay, sure." So if there's a situation like that, I'm asking parents to let me know ahead of time that, hey, this person absolutely not supposed to pick them up. But as long as you have the security tag, you can pick the child up. That's the golden ticket to get it. So yes, ma'am.
A picture of the security tag.
Yes, ma'am, that works. So if you lose it, or if you're in building D and you need your husband or wife to come pick it up, you can text a picture. That counts as long as it's this week's. And the tags have dates on them, and so we'll just look at the date, look at the number, and that way you can't use an old tag. Yes, ma'am.
So I taught first in kindergarten, and at the end of Costco, I was hold hands and pray. Is that X-ing now?
Well, that's fine. Yeah, you're holding hands in a circle. That's okay. That's fine. Absolutely, yeah. Good question, but that's fine. Yes, ma'am, Miss Sweet.
I have a question about the doors. If perchance, and this doesn't happen often, I am teaching alone, I leave my door open even though I feel like sometimes we're too loud. But is it better that the doors be left open, or if there's at least 2 teachers in there, it's okay to close it for the hallway? If you're singing loud.
That's a great question. Yeah, if you've got 2 adults in there, it is okay to shut the door. But if you have only 1 adult, you do need to leave the door open. That way we can just all of the visibility. So yes, ma'am. Yep. We do not. We don't have windows in the doors, so in general we do want to leave them open. If you're doing like an activity that's going to be particularly loud, as long as there are 2 adults in the room, it's okay to shut the door for a little bit, but you don't want to leave it shut for the whole time. So as soon as you're done singing or done playing the game, you want to leave it reopened. And there are security team members who are here on Sunday mornings and Wednesday night going around all of the different rooms as well. And so anybody sees anything, it's like, man, that door's been shut for a really long time, like what's going on? We'll monitor that to make sure that everyone's squared away. So all good questions. Anybody else have any questions regarding the policy? Yeah, Rachel.
We have a couple questions related to medical care.
Yes, ma'am.
So anything that's beyond ice pack or Band-Aid, that's what we would fill out the form. I have that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have ice packs available to us, like in this freezer?
We're going to. Yeah, my car blew up right before I got married, and so Nicole's been graciously driving me to and from work, and so it's just a matter of like, oh, hey, when can we swing by Walmart? But before Awana and the starts, we'll have those ice packs available. That way, if a kid busts their lip or something and needs it, we'll get that squared away.
The other question I just have about that, and maybe it's just conversation with the parent, you have older kids who have inhalers for asthma, and as long as their doctor says they can carry it in that medicine.
Yes, ma'am. Children can self-apply medicine. So if there's a child who has asthma and they know how to use their inhaler, quite frankly, if the child has an EpiPen or something and they know how to administer it to themselves, that's okay. Medically, both in terms of insurance and just legality, what we can't do is administer the asthma inhaler for them or the EpiPen for them. And so at that point, that's where we would say you need to contact us. And most of the time, the parents whose children's allergies or asthma or something like that are so severe to that level, they'll let me know anyway ahead of time, and we'll just be very conscious. And the summary forms that I'm having y'all give out at the end of every Bible Life class that we're going to hand out at the end of every children's worship and the end of every Awana for the next month talks about those things. And so it's really just a matter of anything happens, parents can't say they didn't know because I've blasted them from every angle for 6 weeks. So, yes, Joy.
Is there anyone that is trained to administer that kind of thing? Like I know our preschool, they had the 2 administrators, they got training.
So I'm,
Only as a food allergy.
yeah.
Like time is of the essence, and if they can't find one about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, so they're working on, the church is working on, and I don't know the status of it at this point, but working on looking what it would look like to have a medical team, so similar to the security team that we have. What would it look like to have a medical team of people who are medical professionals that just take rotations, nurses and EMTs and that kind of a thing. And so we're going to have that. I'm looking into what it looks like for me to be Red Cross CPR first aid certified so that I have some training in that as well. So we will have the ability to do those medical things if a particularly big emergency situation does arise. So those are there in those emergency situations. And we can take things case by case. So if there's a severe allergy or severe medical issue for someone, a huge accident that's like, oh man, this needs immediate attention, we're good to give it to them. It's just that in general, we want to make sure that we're not doing too much. That way parents can't say, oh no, you were supposed to administer the EpiPen this way, not that way. You messed it up and now my child's worse off. So yeah, all really good questions. Anybody have anything else? Yes, sir.
Where it says 2 male caregivers may not serve together without a female caregiver also being present? So how's that going to work for Awana?
Yes, sir. Well, let me grab my Awana sheet here. For Awana, we will be good to go for the most part here. I'm looking through all of the things. We've got a couple spots where we'll have people, but we have it set up such that that won't be the case in terms of who's the handbook leaders. So in each of the handbook leader spots, we're good to go. And if there's a week where someone gets stuck in traffic and can't make it, or is sick or something like that, and it ends up being that there's 2 male caregivers, situations happen. But in general, we've got it structured such that no one can be, that won't be the case. So there'll be a female present if there are 2 males. Like for the bigger groups, like y'all's group last year, handbook time was huge, and so we would have, we just switch it around so there would be a lady with you as well as a male. So.
What's the logic behind that?
Yeah, so statistically speaking, males are more, child predators are more male than female. And that's not to say that there aren't female predators. There's a shockingly large number, actually. But statistically speaking, and I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, I could get that for you if you're interested, but statistically speaking, males are more likely to be child predators. And so having both a male and female presence in the room just is another layer of accountability to make sure things are going okay. As well, this is a thing as well, it's nice to just have a male and a female present at both times. 2 dudes can be a little bit gruff sometimes unintentionally, and to have a lady in the room as well is super helpful. Even guys that are dads, it can be gruff sometimes, and so it's nice to have a man and a woman in there. Couples are super great and encouraged, but if it's Nicole and Norm doing something, that's fine as well. So. Yeah, any other questions? Those are all super great.
Be a kindergarten girls teacher with me.
Hey, I haven't made the final edits to this leader sheet, so. Yes, Lindsay.
I know you didn't talk about the food policy that's in there.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
A couple questions on that. I assume we'll still have pizza for special events.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and then if a child brings their own snack, I know we have some kindergartners, they
Mm-hmm.
come in with their own food, that's fine. Even if it's
That's totally fine. Yeah. So what we want to avoid, if they bring a snack that is has particularly nuts in it, peanuts, but quite frankly any kind of nut, just to avoid that allergy, since that's the most common one and the one that is transferable. So something like a gluten allergy or a lactose allergen or lactose intolerance, so those don't jump from the food to the person. But the peanuts, since there are some children, Alyssa Junkins is a good example. If you just even being in the room with peanuts can cause her to have a reaction. So those are ones that it's just like, if there's nuts in the room, absolutely not. You need to eat your snack outside and then come back in. But if a child brings a snack, that's fine, as long as it's the nuts are the biggest thing we're looking at. And we'll have special events for pizza and that kind of thing. Parents of kids with allergies are 9 times out of 10 very aware of their child's allergy and very happy to let me know that their kid has an allergy and what to do. So and in the event that not, that's why the policy is there, just to make sure everyone's. But I love eating, so there's goldfish and graham crackers to go around for days. So we can survive on them for a long time. Yes, sir.
Is there any protocol, and I'm thinking more so about game time, to where is there a limit on how many kids can go to the restroom at once? Because somehow, because I'm always by the door, everybody's asking me.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of hard to keep track of it, so I didn't know if there was something like to keep in mind.
Yeah, so one of the things I did in the Awana schedule this year is I built in passing periods. So our game time, our handbook time, and our large group time are all 20-minute intervals with 10 minutes on the end for closing. We'll go over that schedule in a minute. But with that built-in passing period time, there's an opportunity for the children to go to the restroom during the passing period if they need to. And so what you'll want to do is just say, hey, we're walking from our handbook time to game time. If you need to go to the restroom, now's the time to do it. And that'll hopefully cut down on most of it. And then what we'll do is just, if we've got a bunch of kids going out, hey, 3 or 4 kids are in the bathroom, you can go, but you need to wait until they come back in. And during children's worship, something that I've started to do, Angela was super helpful in pointing this out to me, just that there's not normally a bathroom break, really, once you get to Bible Life. And so right at the very beginning of children's worship is just, hey, if you need to go to the bathroom, now's the time to do it. And they all disperse, and we do something called Cool Stuff with Mr. Ethan, where I just share some fun pictures that are awesome to look at. It's a fun time, but it's you're not really missing content if you're gone for that. And so that gives them a chance on Sunday mornings to have a bathroom break after that time. Yes, ma'am, Miss Sweet.
I just thought of something else. The travel from the building C to the church with that combination of kids who are going to stay for children's worship and sit together and those that are going to their parents, we almost will need them to make sure we take that child to their parents.
Yes, ma'am. So the handoff is a little interesting, and it's something that Aaron and I have talked a lot about. There's not a 100% smooth way to handle that on Sunday mornings. Unfortunately, just the way that we've kind of got it set up. But with the check-in badge is going to have, if you're checking your kid into Bible Life and you want them to go to children's worship, you can just touch both events, and their tag will represent that. And then I'll still walk children over if they want to come over. They're instructed to, and sometimes they run off before I can grab them, wait until they get into the sanctuary to go to their parents. That doesn't always happen. It's pretty hectic in between the service changes. And then when Aaron releases everybody, they all come up, and their tags designate where they're supposed to be. And so that's how we'll handle that for now. And over the next 6 weeks, part of the soft launch is to let parents get used to, I haven't had to check my kid in before, and what do you mean they can't come to class in October if they don't have a tag? Like, to let them get used to that. But the other part is for me to be able to watch and see what's smooth, what's not. There are some things I'm anticipating are going to be where the kinks are, but at the same time, what's a good road trip without a flat tire you didn't expect? And so I imagine there'll be something, maybe even like that, that's like, oh, that's where the kink is. And these 6 weeks are going to really help all of us. And I encourage you to let me know if you see a kink. Work out those things. That way when we start really strictly enforcing the policy, we can be smooth with it and have things squared away. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my brain's going to when they're in Bible Life, and for a parent to pick up their kid from the Bible Life class before service starts, they have to give the ticket, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you take them over to children's church. You take them over to church, big church. And when you get over there, then you send the kid off with their parent who doesn't need to give the tag at that point. They just take them and say, they're going to worship with me.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no protocol for that. So that could be anybody, right? They could say, oh yeah, they sit with us for worship. And so then there you've lost the child. Possibly they can leave.
Oh yeah, no, that's,
and
yeah.
then they come over here, but if you're a parent, you've already given your ticket.
Well, you're not going to give the ticket away. So during Bible Life, so like for instance, I'll just use you as an example, but like if you want to pick up Abby after Bible Life is over, you'll show her teacher the tag, but not hand the tag to her. So just Bible Life teachers, you can know, don't keep the tags because we're going to need them for children's worship. But you just show it. The teacher will check, oh, okay, you've got QRZ. You can go. And you'll keep the tag with you. And then when the parents come during the service, the goal is going to be that everyone needs to come and sit in those front rows with me. And when parents come, right now what parents do is they kind of come and tap their kid on the shoulder, hey Johnny, come sit with me. I'm going to be there since I've walked them over. I'll check, hey, show me your tag, make sure that you're supposed to go with the child. And you keep it so you can pick them up from children's worship. And then children's worship is when we will collect all the tags and throw them in the garbage can. The unfortunate part of the moving in between the services, which I'm working on, but I don't know that we can avoid all of the loopholes, is that, there is, if a kid runs quickly to their parent before I can grab them, we won't be able to check their tag. But in general, that's going to be the flow, and that's going to be one of the things I want to watch and see, hey, what's good, what's bad, especially on Sunday morning, and where can we tighten down those hatches on what's going on. Because I don't want to prevent children from worshiping with their parents if that's what their parents want. At the same time, kids dispersing is what this is trying to avoid. So
it needs to be reinforced on both ends, I would say. Like, their parents need to know that even if their child runs to them the sanctuary, they need to walk back over with the,
yes, ma'am.
The tag. So parents need to know, and then also tell the kids multiple times.
Yep. Yeah, and this Sunday is Promotion Sunday, so right now, like on Facebook and everything, I'm really pushing Promotion Sunday. Once we get into September, I'm going to start being targeted with emails and Facebook posts about things like that, to let everybody know, like, hey, here's what's going on. The papers that we're handing out to parents when they pick up their kids from Bible Life, Children's Worship, just that flood of information coming everybody's way, are going to be things like that. And that way everybody knows, and if a kink happens, the goal is a parent can't say, you didn't tell me. If a parent doesn't pay attention, I can't control that. But I told you every week for 6 weeks. So these are all really great questions. We do have some Awana stuff to go over, and so in an effort to make sure everyone gets home safe, we're going to take a 5-minute break. If you're just a Bible Life teacher, you don't need to stay for the second part because it's going to be Awana specific. Thank you for coming. With Promotion Sunday, if you are a Bible Life teacher and you're teaching this week, just know you might have kids in the wrong class, but you should be squared away. And with that, thank you for coming. It's 7:45, so at 7:50 we'll pick back up for the Awana part of things. A lot of our Awana stuff is all of the paperwork that's there. Just a couple quick points. I'm going to go over everything, and then I'm going to save questions for the end. That way we can make sure to hit the 8:10 mark. If anyone's got kids in childcare, you can grab them. And then if you have questions that we don't have time for them at the end, you can come and talk to me. We can talk afterwards. But the biggest thing to talk about for Awana, if you look in front of you, you've got the schedule and the new themes for this upcoming fall. So we've got a lot of fun themes. It'll be good for you to note that we are not meeting on Halloween. It is the time of the year where all of your neighbors are out in your neighborhood. And from Aaron down to everyone else in terms of ministries, his philosophy is, all of your neighbors, many of whom don't know Jesus, are literally coming to your door to talk to you. You need to be in your neighborhood talking to them. And so we are not going to meet that way. You can be meeting with your neighbors. When that time comes, I'm going to print off some material about the church you can hand out with candy if you so please. And then the 21st is right there the day before Thanksgiving, and all of the travel and everything involved with that. We won't meet then, and we'll be done in plenty of time for Christmas to hit. So you can read through those different themes. I think they're going to be pretty fun. I'm pretty excited for those guys. The sheet that you have, that's the orange and white one, the secretaries are super familiar with this sheet because it's the one that they use to check kids in. And so the check-in's going to look a little different this fall. The secretaries, y'all won't have anything that's different. It'll look the same for you, except for one thing. The name tags, leaders, we will still have name tags, but the check-in badges are going to serve as the children's name tags. It'd be kind of silly to give them a name tag around their neck and a name tag on their chest. And so to differentiate between teams, what we're going to do is when the secretaries check them in, check who's got their Bible and everything like that, there's going to be indicated next to their name what team they're on. And I'm going to have those little yellow dots, you know, the ones you use to like put prices on for a yard sale. And whatever team they are, you're going to peel off one of those dots and they're going to stick it on their name tag. And we'll still know what color team they belong to for game time and for the points and purposes of that. So that's only the big difference you'll notice. Yes, ma'am.
So last year, kinder operated differently than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And all that, so we'll be.
I'm going to have your name tags printed off ahead of time with the stickers already stuck on them for you for kindergarten. And if you have a guest, we use the paper tag for the first time, and then I'll get them in the system, and they'll be the names that I print off ahead of time. But we'll do that for y'all to make sure you're squared away. One note, part of Christy's transition is that all of the record keeping for Awana is now my responsibility. And so a couple things to make life more efficient. Before the secretaries leave, if y'all could make sure every week that you add up all of the points that the kids have for me. Christy was talking to me and she mentioned that it took her a while to kind of just go through and add up the points for everybody. So if you could make sure every week all of the points are added up, and so that I can just go through and enter on my spreadsheet, Jordan Brooks, 500, Jay Cesares, 1,200, Gustavo, 1,500, and just knock it out real quick. That'll help me a lot. I appreciate that from you. We've got that going. Now, the biggest thing I want to spend most of the time on are our record sheets. So as you experienced a little bit last year and is now full in effect, I've spent countless hours on the phone with Awana, and they have changed all of the TNT curriculum completely and did not let me buy the old stuff. So all TNT is new and fresh and shiny, and everything has changed on that end. Sparks looks the same for the most part. The record sheets are a little bit different. So if you see in front of you, mine's pink, yours is just kind of gray. The Sparks record sheets are these one-year achievement card, and everybody will only be keeping records on these one-year achievement cards for Sparks. There were some different versions of ones last year, but we're just going to use these this year. And the TNT record sheets you can see in front of you as well. This is what the secretaries are going to be looking at. And the TNT for the 3rd and 4th graders had sheets that look similar to this last year. The 5th graders had the old ones. These are most of the way the same. They look a little different, laid out a little different. But what I want to walk through is how you fill out as a leader the reporting sheets. So in front of you, you've got a TNT sheet and a Sparks achievement sheet. And then we'll kind of look at what that looks like to actually put it on the record sheet. That way y'all kind of have an idea of what's going on. I got some good feedback from everybody last year that for the most part people knew what was going on, but so there was some learning as they went, and I want you to make sure to feel equipped instead of just making it up as we go along. So on the Sparks sheet, you can see it there in front of you. It's just a small slip. On your paper it's 8.5 by 11, but it's just a little square at the top of the page. If you're a handbook leader for Sparks, you will grab this sheet of paper, and every time you come in with your kids, you'll be working on the same sections. Kids who are returning will pick up right where they left off in the spring. Kids who are new, everyone will start with a Start Zone booklet. Sparks kids, once they finish their Start Zone, they earn their vest and begin the first book, which is this Hang Gliders book, and they'll begin to go through all of that. And you write down their name, the team that they're on, which would be that colored dot, the date, and then where it says passed is how many sections they passed. So if they did 3 sections, you write the number 3. If they did 1 section, you write the number 1. And then where it says sections, that's where you write out which sections they did. And under it you see handbook, and so you'll circle hang glider, wing runner, or sky stormer, whichever one they're in. And then for the sections, the first part of each book is something that's called rank, And your first section, instead of earning a jewel, you earn this little patch that has the logo for the book on it. And so if you do a rank section, you'll check the box that says rank, and then rank section 1, section 2, section 3, and then you'll mark that on there. Once they get past that, they do red and green jewels, and you'll check which jewel and which section they completed that night. And the thing that says frequent flyer extra credit cards at the bottom is once they finish all 3 of the handbooks. We've got some kids who are super industrious and go through the books quicker than others. There are 3 extra credit books that they can go through. I found 2 YouTube videos that were helpful for me in watching, just to kind of see how these cards are marked out. And I'm going to post the training online on YouTube for y'all to watch, and I'll post the links there as well. That way you can go back and watch the video of someone filling it out. I found that to be helpful. If it helps you, great. If not, no worries. But so you know, our Sparks kids start off with their Start Zone booklet, and then they go for this book, and then they get a blue one that's the Wing Runner book, and they get a red one that's the Sky Stormer. And after that, there is a Hang Glider, Wing Runner, and Sky Stormer extra credit book. And if they get through all of that, which would be super impressive by the time they're done with Sparks, then we're going to start having kids memorize books of the Bible. So this fall/winter, if a kid gets through everything, they're going to work on memorizing the book of Ephesians. And they probably won't, but we always have a few kids who get super far ahead of others, and so Ephesians is where they'll go. The design is that about a book a year is the pace you'll take for the class. And on the pink sheet, which is y'all's grayed out one for the record sheet, the secretaries will take that, they'll look at the sheet, and filled out correctly, they'll just be able to copy it, and so they'll be able to look. We're not going to worry about the part that says attendance, because when they check in, we're keeping attendance that way. But when you look at the slip, they'll be able to say, okay, how many sections were passed? 3 sections. And then they'll look, and they'll say, okay, was the Start Zone book, was the rank book, was it the red jewel, which one were they working on? Okay, so they're working on rank, and they completed sections 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll check the box on 1, 2, 3, 4. And just go through and check them off. And kids will work sequentially. In order to get the award for completing the book, you have to complete all of the book. Every extra credit, every nook and cranny, you got to turn through all of it before I give you the award. And then you can move on to the next book after you've completed that one. And if a kid goes through 2 different books in a year, so say in the fall they got halfway through this green one, and they're going to want to pick back up, we'll just give them a new sheet. So one sheet goes with 1 book. We'll mark it down. And if any of y'all have questions, you can come ask me at the end if we have time, or afterwards. Like I said, I'll send out those YouTube videos. For the TNT sheets, we've got a little bit different. So Awana is funny. They updated everything except their track pads. Why that's like that is kind of beyond me, but so goes the flow. And so the track pads have a couple of things that are actually language-wise connected to the old material, even though we can't buy the old material anymore. So believe me, I've expressed my discomfort about that to Awana, and they just don't say anything and hang up. So goes life on that. But the books that we've got now for TNT, instead of doing Ultimate Challenge and Ultimate Adventure, it's all just Truth and Training. And there are 3 books that they go through. We start off with the green one that's called Mission of Grace. Then we go to the purple one, which is called Evidence of Grace. And then kids work through the blue one, which is new this year, and it's called Agents of Grace. Now the idea is that Truth and Training is 3rd, 4th, 5th. And you have a book a year that you go through in those, in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And if you have a couple kids, Logan Flippo is a good example of a kid whose mind is just soaks stuff up and goes through things really quickly. No doubt he'll get through these books probably before the year's over. And he likewise, or anyone else like him, Alyssa Junkins is a good example of someone who did it last year. We'll just begin to memorize books of the Bible. And we'll start with Ephesians. If you get through Ephesians, we'll go to Colossians. If you get through that, I might give you a Romans, just because we know that'll be something to work through for you. But the idea is a book a year, and on the sheet, what you'll do, TNT leaders have it a little bit easier. You can write down the names of everyone in your group here in this column. And then their team color, you just look at the dot. And then where it says book number or start zone number, you'll just write down what they're doing. So you'd write down start zone, you'll write down missions, evidence, or agents of grace. And then where it says discovery challenge or discovery card, those terms actually is what goes with the old curriculum. So you just ignore that. The new curriculum, as you can see on the record sheet in front of you, it just goes by units. So each book has 4 units, and each unit has anywhere from 6 to 8 sections. So unit 1, section 1, so on and so forth. And you see in here, I'll just open it up. So here's unit 1, section 4. Kid goes through that, and there's some work that they go through, fill in the blank verses, some discussion questions. And then you get to the end, and there is a silver extra credit and a gold extra credit. And they don't finish the whole section until they get done with the extra credit as well as the main part. So there's 3 pieces. You've got the section plus silver plus the gold. Whatever they work on that night, you write down where it says discovery challenge or discovery card. So 2.1, comma, silver, comma, gold, 2.2, comma, silver. That's what they did. And then on the record sheet, the secretaries will come in and mark that down on the record sheet. And the kids will just move through the book. For both Awana, for all sections, kids are at any given point along the way in one of their books. And the goal for TNT is to have green, purple, blue be the sequence. We might be a little bit out of sequence for some of the kids, and so if we are out of sequence with the kids, say they started in the purple one in the fall but haven't done the green one yet, we'll back around to it. But anybody who's new, what we're going to start to do is say you start in green. So people who are coming into 3rd grade this year for the first time, they get a green book. And anybody who is a new visitor, you get a green book. We all start you in the green book, and then the purple book, and then the blue book. We'll grandfather kids in along the way as we need to. And with that, that's pretty well it. I'm going to send you those YouTube videos so that you can see how these are filled out. And those videos were really helpful to me. It kind of cleared up some of the fuzziness in my mind. And real quickly, just to mention, and then we have a few minutes for questions, there were some questions too last year. So if I'm a handbook leader, Brian is doing game time, so what do I do during game time? Or Ethan and or Sandra, you're doing large group time, what do I do during large group time? And the goal for those times is we really just want to be intentional about building relationships with the kids. And so as much as I love everyone, the Lord's blessed us with anywhere from 65 to 75 kids on a Wednesday night. And I have a lot of energy, but I don't have that much. I can't get to know 75 kids, but we collectively can. And so just finding 1 or 2, maybe 3 kids that aren't related to you, that you know, and you can just begin to, hey, how's baseball going for you? What are you doing? And every time when you're playing games, you're focusing on building a relationship with that child. In large group time, we'll have the leaders sit with the kids, and those are the kids that you're focusing on getting to know a little bit better. You're trying to sit next to them as you can, and you're really just pouring in intentionally into those kids. That way, everybody who comes through the door feels like someone's connected with them, an adult loves them, an adult cares about them. They're not just being herded around like cats, but they're here because we love them and we care about them. And just that intentionality is what we really want to aim for during those times. And in handbook time, working on getting everybody's staff to have 3 people in each room. Unfortunately, as of yet, we're not quite there for each room. We're close. We could use about 4 more handbook leaders. So hopefully the Lord provides that. But as we're waiting on Him to answer that prayer, we can still be as intentional as possible. With that, we've got about 3 minutes until 8:10. So I have time for a couple questions. I'll end it for us. And then if you have more questions, you can come talk to me. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Jamie.
Start zone. What if they come in the middle of September and everybody's already done their start zone? Do they have to start?
Man, we give everybody a start zone to start off, and what we're going to start doing is so last year, so TNT structured it to be like, doesn't matter where you are, you just jump in at what section we're on. I'm changing that because that stinks. We're starting you in start zone, and then you're sequentially working through books. And we'll have to tweak which books you're working through for kids who kind of jumped in the middle. But we're doing that. Our large group lessons are going to be, instead of just from the Awana handbooks, we have 12 weeks of Awana, so we're going to go in 4 3-week cycles. 1 week I'm going to teach out of the Awana handbook. Sandra's going to do the same thing. The second week, we're going to take Wayne Grudem's 20 Basic Christian Beliefs, and on a boiled down Awana appropriate level, we're going to talk about doctrine. So we're going to look at who is God, what's the Bible. Those are going to be the two we focus on for the most part, taking that very slowly so that kids have a really good understanding of when they're memorizing verses. I and the Father are one. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Theologically, I want to help the kids understand what they're memorizing. So it doesn't really mean a ton if they can spout off verses, but they have no idea what it means. So through the lessons, my goal is to help them begin to understand who God is, what the Bible is, and how that connects. And then the third lesson is going to be more practical. So what does it mean to pray? What is the Bible? So what's the Old Testament? What's the New Testament? How do I navigate through it? Once again, this is not about information input. It's about kids knowing Jesus. And when they leave here, being able to grow in their faith on their own. And so I'm going to retool those lessons to make that more geared towards them. Sandra's going to do the same thing. I think there's time for one more question before we break. Yes, ma'am.
So along that, what's the expectation from the handbook leaders as far as what should our time in that room look like?
That's perfect. So we still want to go through the handbooks themselves. That's the time where we're really focusing on the memory part. And so it's always kind of a tricky balance, isn't it, of dividing the time between students who have a bunch of verses memorized and need you to listen to them to get those verses memorized. And then there are some kids who come in, and they haven't done very much, if any, work, and it's helping them memorize that. And so really just helping them, whether it's listening or helping them work on that, is the goal for that time. And I'm going to do the best I can to float in and out of rooms as we figure out what numbers look like to be there helping, but focusing on helping those kids work through those things is what we want to do. And I'm doing the best I can, and we'll see what numbers look like to keep groups small enough that that's possible. We were blessed to have lots of kids last year, and I hope that the Lord brings us more. But part of that is just we can only listen to so much at once. And so really just helping them, listening to them or helping them is what we want to do. And it's okay with me to say, hey, I got a kid who memorized 6 sections. Logan might take a little bit more time on someone else or someone like him who just has a lot to say. I'm A-okay with y'all coming here, so the child protection policy is still in play, but you stepping aside to the back and continuing to work with them on scripture memory. That way each kid gets individual time as they need. Game time's awesome, and we love what Brian does. At the same time, if 1 or 2 kids need help, please help them. So with that, I'm going to pray real quick, and we'll break. That way our child care workers come back to us. But if you have any other questions, feel free to come talk to me. I'm going to send an email out. This was recorded. I'm going to upload it to YouTube as well. I'm going to give you the links for the videos that explain how to fill these out. And any other questions you have, holler at me. I am literally here for you. That's my job, which is awesome. So with that, let's pray real quick. Father, we love you, and we thank you for an opportunity to meet together tonight. We pray that you would please bring lots of kids to Awana. We pray that through the work that we do, you would save the lives of these children. We pray that children who come to Hayes Hills would come because it's fun and stay because you saved them and they're growing in their faith. We pray that they would begin to understand the meaning of the verses that they memorize. I praise you for each one of the workers who are going to come, those who are here with us tonight, those who will be with us in the future. We praise you for them and for their hard work. We could not do this. I couldn't do this without them, Lord, and I thank you for them. And it's in the name of your Son that we pray, and we do all of these things. Amen.